All right, so hi everyone, a very good morning to all of you, and welcome back to the channel. So, my dear friends, this is the top 100 MCQ series that we are starting for all the subjects for the upcoming JAIIB examination. My name is Manish Mishra, and I will be taking the top 100 MCQs of Module A and Module C. Module wise, we will be doing top 100 MCQs for all the subjects, right? So from today we are going to start. I will be taking up the top 100 MCQs from Module A and Module C, and Prakash sir will be taking up the top 100 MCQs from Module B and Module D. Okay. Similarly, Madhav sir will be taking up the classes for PPB. Pushpak sir will be taking up the classes for RBWM, and मोनिका मैम भी अपने सब्जेक्ट की क्लास लेंगी. सो ये अगर आप 400-500 क्वेश्चन कर लेंगे सारे इकट्ठे मिला के, तो आई थिंक आपका ऑलमोस्ट काम डन हो जाएगा. एंड okay, so let's start. Question number one: what was the immediate trigger for 1991 economic crisis in India? So as you know, there were a lot of triggers for the economic crisis. For example, सबसे पहले तो जो हमारी import substitution strategy थी, that was one of the reasons. Then उसके बाद there was a reason of Gulf War. ठीक है, then there was collapse of due to Gulf War, the oil prices were collapsed. ठीक है, our बैलेंस ऑफ बीओपी डेफिसिट जो था वो बहुत ज्यादा था. लेकिन जो इमीडिएट रीजन था जिसकी वजह से सरकार को स्टेप लेना पड़ा, दैट वाज डिप्लीशन ऑफ फॉरेन एक्सचेंज रिजर्व. आर फॉरेन एक्सचेंज रिजर्व डिप्लीटेड सो मच दैट we had only the foreign exchange reserve for paying the import bills of just 3 weeks, and that is why the government had to implement the economic reforms. So सबसे बड़ा जो immediate trigger था 1991 economic crisis का, that was the depletion of foreign exchange reserves. Which international institutions influenced India to undertake structural reforms in 1991? So अब देखो इस टाइम हमारी जो इकोनॉमी थी, right, that was a closed economy. And the country was focused. अगर हम इंटरनेशनल ट्रेड की बात करें, so we had the inward looking strategy मतलब we were more focused on exports rather than imports. ठीक है, और इंपोर्ट और ऐसा करने के लिए हमारे पास मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कैपेबिलिटी थी ही नहीं. तो जो हमारी स्ट्रैटेजी थी वो बहुत ही ज़्यादा गलत थी, क्लोज्ड इकोनॉमी थी. अब क्योंकि हमारी जो इकोनॉमी क्राइसिस में आ गई 1991 में, तो ऑल द इंटरनेशनल इंस्टीट्यूशंस डिनाइड अस द लोन्स. जितने भी इंटरनेशनल इंस्टीट्यूशंस थे उन्होंने बोला कि भैया अब आपको लोन नहीं मिल पाएगा, बिकॉज नाउ वी कुड सी दैट यू डू नॉट हैव इनफ फॉरेन एक्सचेंज रिजर्व, सो हाउ यू विल बी एबल टू पे अस बैक. ठीक है, तो उन्होंने लोन्स के लिए मना कर दिया. बट ऑफ कोर्स गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया को कुछ तो करना ही था. सो आईएमएफ एंड वर्ल्ड बैंक पुट सर्टेन कंडीशंस टू अंडरटेक स्ट्रक्चरल रिफॉर्म्स. आईएमएफ और वर्ल्ड बैंक ने बोला कि आपको कुछ ना कुछ स्ट्रक्चरल रिफॉर्म्स करने पड़ेंगे, जिसमें जो सबसे मेजर रिफॉर्म्स था, दैट इज टू ओपन अप द इंडियन इकोनॉमी एंड डिवैल्यू द करेंसी. ठीक है, हमने ओवर वैल्यू कर रखा था. ठीक है, तो इसका सही आंसर है आईएमएफ एंड वर्ल्ड बैंक. What was one of the key objectives of economic reforms in 1991? वन ऑफ द की ऑब्जेक्टिव बताना है इकोनॉमिक रिफॉर्म्स का. तो वैसे तो देखो बहुत सारे ऑब्जेक्टिव थे, लेकिन अगर आप इन ऑप्शंस को पढ़ोगे, ठीक है, तो आपको ये समझ में आ जाएगा कि हमें देखो याद रखना, जैब में विल ऑलवेज हैव टू राइट द मोस्ट अप्रोप्रिएट आंसर. ठीक है, विल ऑलवेज हैव टू राइट मोस्ट अप्रोप्रिएट आंसर. तो इंक्रीज पब्लिक सेक्टर डोमिनेंस नहीं. The government, in fact, decided to decrease the public sector dominance because the public sector enterprises were not performing well. So the government opened up the economy for inviting more private players. Promoting government monopolies, no. सरकार का तो वैसे भी बहुत खस्ता हालत थी उस समय, तो गवर्नमेंट की मोनोपोली तो नहीं बढ़ानी चाहती थी सरकार, इनफैक्ट प्राइवेटाइजेशन चाहती थी. यस, टू स्टेबलाइज द इकोनॉमी was one of the key objective of the economic reforms in 1991. What was a major policy change in the industrial sector under the 1991 reforms? ठीक है, extension of industrial licensing to more sectors. No, लाइसेंसिंग बल्कि रेस्ट्रिक्ट कर दी गई थी. लाइसेंसिंग राज, बिल्कुल लाइसेंस राज को सरकार ने खत्म कर दिया था. राइट. Reservation of more sectors for public enterprises. No, as I told you that the public sector enterprises were not performing well, so the government in fact started disinvesting in the public sector enterprises, and the government invited more private players in all the sector. The government moved toward the privatization to enhance the efficiency, right? And in fact, in case of the public enterprises which were good enough, the government started to providing autonomy to these PSUs. तो गवर्नमेंट अपना हाथ हटा रही थी बिल्कुल. Abolition of industrial licensing system. This is absolutely correct. As I told you, the license Raj was abolished. Of course, a few a few sectors like hazardous chemicals, weapons, उसके लिए लाइसेंस अभी भी उस टाइम भी लेना था और आज भी लेना है, बट ओवरऑल जो था इंडस्ट्रियल लाइसेंसिंग सिस्टम को अबॉलिश कर दिया गया. क्लियर. Which sector saw enhanced autonomy as the part of liberalization? Liberalization जब हुए तो कमर्शियल बैंकिंग, दोस्तों कमर्शियल बैंकिंग को पूरी ऑटोनॉमी दी गई. कैसे? बाय ओपनिंग अप द बैंकिंग ऑपरेशंस फॉर द प्राइवेट प्लेयर्स. ठीक है. और उसके बाद नरसिम्हन कमेटी ने 1992 में रिपोर्ट दे दी जिसने बोला कि भाई ठीक है, वी नीड टू डीरेगुलेट द इंटरेस्ट रेट्स, वी नीड टू डीरेगुलेट द इंटरेस्ट रेट्स. ठीक है. एंड उसके बाद आरबीआई ने रिकमेंड कर दिया कि भाई ठीक है, इसने रिकमेंड किया था नरसिम्हन ने, आरबीआई ने एक्सेप्ट भी कर लिया, गवर्नमेंट ने एक्सेप्ट भी कर लिया कि एसएलआर और सीआरआर को कम करा जाए, एसएलआर और सीआरआर को कम करा जाए, इंटरेस्ट रेट्स को डीरेगुलेट किया जाए, जो बैंक ब्रांच की लाइसेंसिंग पॉलिसी है उसको खत्म किया जाए ताकि जो ब्रांच का एक्सपेंशन है वो हो सके. राइट. कमर्शियल बैंकिंग saw the enhanced autonomy. What did the IMF require India to do under its extended fund facility in 1991? So as I told you, IMF put a lot of conditions over India, over the government of India, to extend the fund facility in the year 1991. $600 million का लोन दिया था IMF ने, और उसके बदले में the IMF took a gold pledge of 67 million tons, 67 million tons, and the IMF put a condition on the government of India to devalue its rupee. 22% devaluation हुआ था हमारी रुपीस का. ठीक है जी. कितना? 22% devaluation हुआ था. ओके. What change did the 1991 reforms make regarding the FDI? FDI के रिगार्डिंग में क्या क्या चेंजेस हुए थे 1991 रिफॉर्म्स में? FDI was banned in core industries. नहीं, ऐसा कुछ नहीं था. इनफैक्ट FDI को ओपन अप कर दिया गया था इन द कोर इंडस्ट्रीज. FDI approval was completely centralized. No, there were certain automatic approvals before 1991 reforms. Before 1991 reforms, the FDI approval was completely centralized. But after 1991 reforms, the FDI was allowed through the automatic route as well. Automatic approval for 51% foreign equity in 34 industries. बिल्कुल सही है, याद रखेंगे. और ये नंबर याद रखना. 1991 में 51% फॉरेन इक्विटी ऑटोमेटिक अप्रूवल के थ्रू अप्रूव कर दी गई थी in 34 industries. What was a key criticism of planned economy in India before 1991? Key criticism. ठीक है. Too much reliance on FDI. नहीं, FDI तो था ही नहीं ना उस समय. Before 1991, FDI was not there. Absence of regulation. देखो ऐसा नहीं बोलेंगे कि रेगुलेशन था ही नहीं. रेगुलेशन था. The government was enacting the laws. The government was enacting the regulations. The government was enacting the act. Because RBI तो 1934 में बन गया था और उसके बाद भी 1982 में नबार्ड बन गया था. तो रेगुलेशन तो हो रहा था, और लेकिन प्रॉब्लम ये थी कि वो रेगुलेशन अच्छे से नहीं हो पा रहा था बिकॉज ऑफ ब्यूरोक्रेटिक डिलेज एंड इनएफिशिएंसीज. So the right answer to this question will be option C. There were a lot of bureaucratic delays and inefficiencies, and that is why which led to my dear friends, which is perceived as a key criticism of the planned economy of in India before 1991. In 1991, how much gold did India pledge to secure loans? So as I already told you, 67 tons in exchange of $600 million. $600 million, 67 टन्स का लोन का गोल्ड जो है हमने प्लेज किया था. देखो फ्री में तो कोई लोन देगा नहीं, ठीक है, उसके बदले पैसे तो रखना ही पड़ेगा. तो 67 टन्स का जो गोल्ड है वो प्लेज किया था इंडिया ने, तब जाके $600 मिलियन का लोन मिला था IMF से. राइट. What led to a rise in fiscal deficit before the 1991 reforms? What led to a rise in fiscal deficit before the 1991 reforms? तो फिस्कल डेफिसिट क्यों बढ़ा था? देखो फिस्कल डेफिसिट बढ़ने के बहुत सारे रीजन थे. मेजरली जो होता है, देखो फिस्कल डेफिसिट जो सरकार होती है उसके दो खर्चे होते हैं. एक होता है डेवलपमेंटल एक्सपेंडिचर और एक होता है नॉन डेवलपमेंट एक्सपेंडिचर. ठीक है. डेवलपमेंट एक्सपेंडिचर में सरकार को पता है कि आज अगर हम खर्चा करेंगे तो कल इसका रिटर्न तो मिल जाएगा. ठीक है, वहां से रिटर्न आ जाएगा. लेकिन नॉन डेवलपमेंट एक्सपेंडिचर जैसे कि सैलरीज ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट एम्प्लॉइज, the subsidies that the government is providing, the freebies which governments are focusing a lot on these days, right? So इसमें क्या है कि कोई रिटर्न नहीं है, इसमें कोई रिटर्न नहीं है, नॉन डेवलपमेंटल एक्सपेंडिचर है. So the increase in the non developmental expenditure, my dear friends, led to an increase in fiscal deficit before the 1991 reforms. The right answer is option B. Okay. ऑफ कोर्स इंक्रीज एक्सपोर्ट्स, ग्रोथ इन मैन्युफैक्चरिंग सेक्टर, डिक्लाइन इन पब्लिक इन्वेस्टमेंट, ये तो बिल्कुल भी फिस्कल डेफिसिट का रीजन नहीं हो सकता, ठीक है। ओके, क्वेश्चन नंबर 11, विच मार्केट रिफॉर्म वाज एम्ड एट मेकिंग इंडियाज एक्सचेंज रेट मार्केट ड्रिवन। ठीक है, तो जैसा कि हमने पढ़ा था, आपने पढ़ा होगा कि जो 1991 रिफॉर्म्स हुए थे उसमें जो ग्लोबलाइजेशन था, ग्लोबलाइजेशन वाला जो रिफॉर्म था उसमें द गवर्नमेंट यू नो द गवर्नमेंट हैड चूजन द लिबरलाइज्ड एक्सचेंज रेट मैनेजमेंट सिस्टम, लर्म्स, लिबरलाइज्ड एक्सचेंज रेट मैनेजमेंट सिस्टम। इससे पहले जो था, बिफोर 1991, हमारे पास फिक्स्ड रेट मैकेनिज्म था, फिक्स्ड एक्सचेंज रेट था, और इस फिक्स्ड एक्सचेंज रेट के बेसिस पे हम जो है अपने फॉरेन करेंसीज को एक्सचेंज वगैरह करते थे, ठीक है। तो अब सरकार को इसकी वजह से जो हमारी करेंसी थी वो ओवर वैल्यू हो गई थी, ठीक है जी, क्या हो गई थी, ओवर वैल्यू हो गई थी, एंड दैट इज व्हाई द गवर्नमेंट डिसाइडेड कि हमें जो है किस तरफ मूव करना पड़ेगा, लिबरलाइज एक्सचेंज रेट मैनेजमेंट सिस्टम। द राइट आंसर इज ऑप्शन सी। Question number 12. Consider the following statement about the 1991 BOP crisis. The crisis was entirely due to external factors such as the Gulf War and collapse of the Soviet Union. Not entirely due to these reasons. These were one of the reasons. So extreme statement जब भी हो वो गलती होते हैं almost. India had to pledge 67 tons of gold to raise emergency funds from international lenders. Correct. The crisis led to a reduction in bank rates to stimulate demands. No, the bank rates in fact were increased. So this is incorrect. Investors pulled out capital leading to a shortage of short-term credit in the export sector. Yes, जब भी बीओपी, जब भी किसी भी इन्वेस्टर को लगेगा कि किसी भी एक पर्टिकुलर कंट्री में क्राइसिस है, आई एम सॉरी अबाउट दैट, आई डिडंट स्लीप लास्ट नाइट। ओके, तो जब भी कभी किसी इन्वेस्टर को लगेगा कि किसी कंट्री में क्राइसिस आने वाला है, तो ऑफ कोर्स दैट इन्वेस्टर विल pull back his or her money. So 2 and 4 will be the correct answer. Regarding the NEP of 1991, consider the following statements. It allowed automatic approval of up to 74% foreign equity in all industrial sector. Not 74%, we just studied 51% in 34 industries. It aimed to increase efficiency by reducing the role of the public sector. बिल्कुल सही. Fiscal consolidation was one of the key objectives. ये भी ठीक है. It eliminated all restrictions on imports and completely abolished the custom duty. देखो यार, custom duty को abolish तो नहीं कर सकते कभी भी, ठीक है। It was not abolished, it was reduced. That is correct कि जो हमारी custom duty थी वो कम हो गई थी, लेकिन हम ये नहीं बोल सकते कि पूरी तरीके से abolish हो गई। So the correct answer is option A, 2 and 3 only. Right. Question number 14. With reference to the liberalization policy under the LPG model of 1991, consider the following statements. Industrial licensing was abolished for all sectors, including hazardous and defense related industries. नहीं, hazardous और defense related industries के लिए तो आज भी licensing है और उस टाइम भी था. Commercial banks were given autonomy to determine interest rates, ending RBI's direct control. Yes, उनको बोल दिया गया कि आप इंटरेस्ट रेट्स को खुद से डिटरमाइन करिए, डीरेगुलेशन ऑफ इंटरेस्ट रेट कर दिया गया बिल्कुल तरीके से. Restrictions under MRTP Act on large firms were lifted to encourage private practices, competitive practices, बिल्कुल सही. An investment limit for small scale industries was actually not reduced, was increased to up to rupees 1 crore to attract the foreign players into the sector. बिल्कुल सही. Not in fact correct, क्योंकि यहाँ पे reduce लिखा हुआ है और actually में क्या हुआ था, increased हुआ था to 1 crore. So this is incorrect. So what will be the correct answer? Correct बताना है, 2 and 3 will be the right answer. Consider the following statements about the globalization component of LPG reforms. Okay, and identify the correct statements. Tariff and custom duties on exports and imports were significantly reduced to promote global trade. बिल्कुल सही बात है. Long term EXIM policy was introduced to create stability and encourage foreign trade. Correct. The FERA was replaced by FEMA to support the capital account convertibility. And India adopted a dual exchange rate system under LERMS to align with the global currency markets. The right answer will be all of the above because all of them are absolutely correct, my dear friends. ठीक है, क्लियर है जी. चलिए, तो ये कुछ क्वेश्चंस थे इकोनॉमिक रिफॉर्म्स पे. अब हम कुछ क्वेश्चंस कर लेते हैं फिस्कल पॉलिसी पे. कुछ और मतलब मिक्स रहेंगे क्वेश्चंस, अलग अलग. हर क्लास में 20 क्वेश्चन करेंगे. 5 क्लास में हम आपके टॉप 100 क्वेश्चंस को कंप्लीट कर लेंगे, माय डियर फ्रेंड्स. ओके, क्वेश्चन नंबर 16. विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग इज अ नॉन डेट क्रिएटिंग कैपिटल रिसीट. देखो, व्हेनेवर यू हैव टू आइडेंटिफाई capital receipt or expenditure or revenue receipt or expenditure. Just you need to check whether there is a change in the liability or in the asset. Asset और liability में अगर कोई change है तो that will be either capital revenue or capital expenditure. ठीक है, capital revenue or expenditure if there is a change in liability or asset. However, if there is no change in the liability or asset, that will be either revenue receipt or revenue expenditure. ठीक है, डू रिमेंबर दिस. तो अब हमें बताना है नॉन डेट क्रिएटिंग कैपिटल रिसीट, लोन्स फ्रॉम आरबीआई. तो अगर हम आरबीआई से लोन लेंगे तो हमारा जो गवर्नमेंट है, गवर्नमेंट का लाइबिलिटी बढ़ेगा. ठीक है, पर क्या ये नॉन डेट क्रिएटिंग है? नहीं, इट इज क्रिएटिंग अ डेट ऑन द गवर्नमेंट. दिस इज नॉट. बोरोइंग्स फ्रॉम फॉरेन एजेंसी, अगेन बोरोइंग्स होगी तो नॉन डेट क्रिएटिंग तो हो नहीं सकता. डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट प्रोसीड्स फ्रॉम अ पीएसयू. देखो, व्हेन द गवर्नमेंट सेल्स इट्स स्टेक्स इन पीएसयू, द गवर्नमेंट सेल्स इट्स स्टेक्स इन द पीएसयू, तो व्हाट इज इट? तो सरकार का जो एसेट है वो कम हो रहा है, द एसेट इज रिड्यूसिंग, व्हिच मींस देयर इज अ चेंज इन द एसेट. यानी कि ये जो पैसा गवर्नमेंट के पास आएगा दैट इज अ कैपिटल रिसीट. बट क्या इससे सरकार के ऊपर कोई डेट क्रिएट हुआ? नहीं, नहीं. तो ये जो है वो एक नॉन डेट क्रिएटिंग एसेट है, नॉन डेट क्रिएटिंग कैपिटल रिसीट. द राइट आंसर इज ऑप्शन सी. एंड इशुएंस ऑफ गवर्नमेंट बॉन्ड्स, जब गवर्नमेंट बॉन्ड्स भी सरकार इशू करती है तो एक्चुअली में लोन ही तो ले रही है पब्लिक से, जनरल पब्लिक से, राइट. Which of the following is an example of revenue expenditure? अब through the same logic you will have to solve all such questions. और इस तरीके का एक क्वेश्चन एग्जाम में आता ही आता है without any doubt. Investments in the share of PSUs. Which of the following is an example of revenue expenditure? ठीक है, जहां पे सरकार ने खर्चा भी करा और उससे कोई एसेट या लाइबिलिटी में चेंज भी नहीं हुआ. इन्वेस्टमेंट होगा तो एसेट बढ़ेगा, एक्विजिशन ऑफ न्यू लैंड, अगेन एसेट बढ़ेगा. सैलरी पेड टू गवर्नमेंट एम्प्लॉय, यस इट इज अ रेवेन्यू एक्सपेंडिचर. वाई? बिकॉज जब सैलरी सरकार देगी तो ऑफ कोर्स ना तो सरकार का एसेट बढ़ रहा है, ना ही लाइबिलिटी कम हो रही है, ना ही एसेट कम हो रहा है और लाइबिलिटी बढ़ रही है. ऑप्शन सी इज द राइट आंसर माय डियर फ्रेंड्स टू दिस पर्टिकुलर क्वेश्चन. Which function of fiscal policy focuses on reducing inequality in the society? So there are three functions of fiscal policy. Number one, allocation function. In allocation function, the government performs those functions which cannot be performed by the private sector. For example, to provide free education, it is the private sector cannot. To provide the free medical facilities, the private sectors cannot. Right? To construct roads, the private sectors cannot. Railways, the private sector cannot. Right? So all of these, are the part of the government function, and that is called allocation function. Then stabilization function mein what government does? The government tries to stabilize the economy. So when, for example, when inflation is high, the government tries to क्या बोलते हैं, stabilize it. ठीक है, उसी तरीके से मनी सप्लाई, ऑफ कोर्स ये सब आरबीआई का रोल है, लेकिन गवर्नमेंट के स्टैम्प के साथ ही सब कुछ होता है. मनी सप्लाई कंट्रोल करना, ठीक है, या फिर ओवरऑल इकोनॉमी अगर डीस्टेबलाइज है तो उसको स्टेबलाइज करना. एंड देन होता है डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन फंक्शन, विच इज द करेक्ट आंसर टू दिस क्वेश्चन. देखो, वी हैव रिच इन द इकोनॉमी, वी हैव द पुअर्स इन द इकोनॉमी. तो रिच से सरकार क्या करती है? टैक्सेस लेती है और इन टैक्सेस के पैसे से पुअर्स का सोशल वेलफेयर होता है. तो टेकिंग मनी फ्रॉम वन सेक्शन एंड प्रोवाइडिंग इट टू द अदर सेक्शन, दैट इज कॉल्ड डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन फंक्शन टू एंश्योर द इक्वल डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन. टू एंश्योर द इक्वल डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन, दैट इज कॉल्ड द डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन फंक्शन ऑफ फिस्कल पॉलिसी. ठीक है, क्लियर है? विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग फॉर्मूला इज इनकरेक्ट? ओके, ग्रॉस फिस्कल डेफिसिट, टोटल एक्सपेंडिचर माइनस रेवेन्यू रिसीट्स प्लस नॉन डेट क्रिएटिंग कैपिटल रिसीट्स, करेक्ट है. रेवेन्यू डेफिसिट इज इक्वल टू, वेरी सिंपल, रेवेन्यू एक्सपेंडिचर माइनस रेवेन्यू रिसीट्स. प्राइमरी डेफिसिट इज इक्वल टू फिस्कल डेफिसिट माइनस नेट इंटरेस्ट लायबिलिटी, ये भी ठीक है. ईआरडी, इफेक्टिव रेवेन्यू डेफिसिट, इज रेवेन्यू डेफिसिट प्लस ग्रांट्स ऑफ क्रिएशन फॉर एसेट्स. नो, जो इफेक्टिव रेवेन्यू डेफिसिट होता है माय डियर फ्रेंड्स, दैट इज रेवेन्यू डेफिसिट माइनस grants for creation of assets. Okay, so this is the right answer to this question. All right, the last question for today's first class, my dear friends. Which of the following is not one of the consequences of deficit financing? Deficit financing क्या होती है? Of course, when there is a fiscal deficit, that has to be financed. ठीक है, why? क्यों? क्योंकि मान लेते हैं सरकार बजट लेके आई और सरकार को पता है 100 रुपए खर्च होने इस साल, लेकिन आएंगे 90 रुपए, तो भैया ये 10 रुपए सरकार को फाइनेंस तो करने पड़ेंगे कि नहीं करने पड़ेंगे? That is called deficit financing. ठीक है, and it leads to increase in employment. क्यों? क्योंकि जब deficit financing होती है उससे इकोनॉमी में मनी सप्लाई इंक्रीज होता है. जब मनी सप्लाई इंक्रीज होगा तो डिमांड बढ़ेगी, डिमांड बढ़ेगा तो प्रोडक्शन बढ़ेगा, प्रोडक्शन के बढ़ाने के लिए एम्प्लॉयमेंट बढ़ती है. economic development, yes, and decrease in production. So no, as I told you, it in fact lead to increase in production. So it is not one of the consequences of the deficit financing. The right answer is option C. ठीक है, चलिए start करते हैं with question number 1 today. Which of the following statements, and these are, my dear friends, quick revision classes. Of course, I am expecting that you have already covered it. Even if you haven't covered it, you will learn a lot from these classes. Okay, which of the following statements are correct with respect to the recommendations of committee to review FRBM target chaired by NK Singh? This committee submitted its report in the year 2016. FRBM Act, my dear friends, Fiscal Responsibility and Budgetary Management Act. It was enacted to take care of the fiscal deficit of the government of India, fiscal deficit of India. ठीक है, एंड देन उसके बाद इसके रिकमेंडेशंस को रिव्यू करने के लिए एक कमेटी बनाई गई थी, दैट वाज चेयर्ड बाय एनके सिंह. इट सबमिटेड इट्स रिपोर्ट इन 2016 एंड अकॉर्डिंग टू रिकमेंडेशन fiscal deficit should be reduced to 2.5% of GDP by 2021. No, it should be reduced by 3% by 2021 and it should be reduced by 2.5% by, once again, yeah, it should be reduced by 2.5% by 2021-22. So this statement is incorrect. Along with this, revenue deficit should be decreased by 0.25% every year and reach to 0.8% by 22-23. बिल्कुल सही है. Overall, government debt to GDP ratio should be reduced to 60% up to 22-23. This is also correct. And इसमें से इस 60% में से 40% सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट का है and 20% belongs to the state government. Okay, so the correct answer will be only 2 and 3. Correct बताना, yes. Option B, 2 and 3 will be the right answer. Which of the following statements is correct with respect to the escape clause? ठीक है, escape clause, my dear friends, was inserted in the FRBM Act in order to, if there is any deviation from the fiscal deficit target, then we can invoke the escape clause. Or if there is any emergency situation in the economy, we can go beyond the fiscal deficit target by invoking the escape clause, which was introduced in FRBM Act in the year 2018 through an amendment. ठीक है जी, क्लियर है. तो escape clause basically होता क्या? For example, the fiscal deficit target for this year is 4.5%, and there is, let's say, there is a problem in the economy, there is a mishappening in the economy, due to which the government had to go beyond this 4.5%. So escape clause लगा के इसको 5% तक, यानी कि it can be extended by up to 0.5%. ठीक है, that is called escape clause. So it was inserted in the act through FRBM Act of 2017, not 17-18. As per this clause, deviations up to 1% of GDP from the stipulated fiscal deficit target, not 1%. As I told you, 0.5%. Government of India invoked this escape clause in financial 21-22 budget. No, it was invoked in 2021 budget because of obviously the COVID-19 pandemic, which collapsed the economy completely. Okay, and in budget 22-23, the finance minister announced that the government aims to reduce the fiscal deficit to below 4.5% of GDP by 25-26. This is absolutely correct. The right answer will be option D, and in fact, I believe we have achieved it. Okay. The FRBM Amendment Act 2018 has provided for limiting the fiscal deficit up to how much percent of GDP by 31st March 2021? Up to 3% of GDP by 2021. Although it was not achieved. It was not achieved. Why? Because obviously the COVID-19 pandemic hit the global economy and of course the Indian economy. So due to this, the targets of FRBM were not achieved. ठीक है, the right answer is 3%. लेकिन चलो टारगेट हमें पढ़ना तो है ही FRBM. Consider the following statements with respect to the FRBM Act and you need to identify the incorrect statements. Very important. The Act provided for reducing the fiscal deficit by 0.3% per annum and reach the levels of 3% fiscal deficit by 2008-9. बिल्कुल सही. Revenue deficit has to be reduced by 1% per annum and to eliminate revenue deficit by 2008-9. Yes, the target was to eliminate revenue deficit by 2008-9, although we didn't achieve the target. But the revenue deficit has to be reduced by 0.5% per annum. ठीक है, 0.5% per annum. So this is incorrect. Government not to borrow from RBI except by ways and means advances to meet the temporary excess of cash disbursement over cash receipts. This is correct. ठीक है, incorrect बताना, only 2 will be the right answer, option B. Which of the following is not one of the objectives of FRBM Act? ठीक है जी, एफिशिएंट मैनेजमेंट ऑफ, देखो जो FRBM एक्ट था वो मेजरली 3 रीजंस की वजह से आया था. ठीक है, उसके जो मेजरली 3 ऑब्जेक्टिव थे. पहला था efficient management of expenditure, revenue and deficit, revenue and debt, better coordination between fiscal and monetary policy, and achieving a balanced budget. All are the objective will be the right answer. Option D will be the correct answer, my dear friends, to this particular question. Now, question 6. There are some questions which are based on government schemes, important government schemes which are asked in the examination. Okay, you have to remember all of these. Of course, you being a banker, you are the implementer of these schemes. But of course, कभी कभी ऐसा होता है कि जो चीज़ हमारे पास होती है हमें उसके बारे में जानकारी नहीं होती है. Consider the following statements and identify the incorrect. PMJDY accounts are eligible for an overdraft facility of up to 10,000 after 6 months of satisfactory operation, and yes, and it is available for the account holders in the age group of 18 to 65 years. Under PMJDY, free debit cards are provided with inbuilt accident insurance coverage of up to rupees 2 lakh, not 1 lakh, and that is called Rupee debit card. Okay. Life, this is incorrect. Life cover under PMJDY is provided for eligible accounts open up to 26 January 2015. No, it was up to 31st January 2015. So this statement is also incorrect. The right answer will be option B, 2 and 3 only. Consider the following statements with respect to Pradhan Mantri Suraksha Bima Yojana, and you need to identify the incorrect statement. It provides accidental death and disability cover for the people in the age group of 18 to 70 years. Yes, Suraksha Bima Yojana is for accidental death and disability, while Jeevan Jyoti Bima Yojana is a life insurance cover. The annual premium under this is 20 rupees per member. Yes, and along with the accidental death cover, the scheme provides hospitalization expenses as well. No, do remember Suraksha Bima Yojana is not a medical cover, is not a medical insurance, right? It is an accidental death insurance or the disability insurance, right? Disability का मतलब क्या है? So on accidental death there is a cover of rupees 2 lakh. ठीक है? On loss of one eye, on loss of both eyes. ठीक है? On loss of both the eyes यहाँ लिख देते हैं. अगर दोनों आंखें चली जाती हैं तो भी 2 लाख का कवर है. ठीक है? अगर एक आंख या फिर उसके साथ में एक हाथ चले जाते हैं तो भी 2 लाख का कवर है. एक आंख प्लस 1 फुट चला जाता है तो 2 लाख का कवर है. ठीक है? इसके अलावा अगर एक आंख जाती है या फिर एक हाथ जाता है या फिर 1 फुट जाता है तो 1 लाख का कवर है. ठीक है? तो 1 and 2 विल बी द इनकरेक्ट बताना है. ओनली 3 विल बी द करेक्ट आंसर. कवरेज याद रखेंगे, दैट इज ऑल्सो वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. कंसिडर द फॉलोइंग स्टेटमेंट्स विद रिस्पेक्ट टू प्रधानमंत्री जीवन ज्योति बीमा योजना. ठीक है जी. एंड बोथ ऑफ दीज स्कीम्स माय डियर फ्रेंड्स आर बीइंग इम्प्लीमेंटेड बाय मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ फाइनेंस. डू रिमेंबर दैट. ठीक है. एंड बोथ ऑफ द स्कीम्स आर एडमिनिस्टर्ड बाय LIC. ठीक है. एक्चुअली जीवन ज्योति बीमा योजना इज एडमिनिस्टर्ड बाय LIC. हाउएवर सुरक्षा बीमा योजना इज बीइंग इम्प्लीमेंटेड बाय all the general insurance companies which are interested. ठीक है. There is no particular implementing agency for that. So it offers life insurance cover of rupees 1 lakh for death due to any reason. Not 1 lakh. Life cover of rupees 2 lakh is provided on death due to any reason. The annual premium is 436 and the scheme is administered not by PFRDA but LIC. Right. So this is incorrect and 1 and 2 are correct. 1 is also incorrect. Correct बताना है हमें. Only 2 will be the right answer. Only 2 will be the right answer to this question. ठीक है. Consider the following statements with respect to Atal Pension Yojana. It is open to all Indian citizens in the age group of 18 to 40 years. Yes. However, the major focus, it is open for all Indian citizens. However, the major focus is on the underserved and unserved sections of the society which do not have the access to the pension benefits. The pension amount ranges from 1,000 to 5,000 per month depending upon contribution and age of joining. Yes. And the scheme is not administered by LIC but Pension Fund Regulatory Development Authority of India. So this is incorrect. Correct बताना है. 1 and 2 will be the right answer. Second. Consider the following statements with respect to Sukanya Samriddhi Yojana. The account can be opened in the name of a girl child till she attains the age of 10 years and only one account per child is permitted. बिल्कुल सही. Sukanya Samriddhi Yojana, it is a small savings certificate scheme. Small savings scheme. Deposit must be made for 15 years from the date of account opening. Yes. Or up to the age of 21 years of age of the girl child or till her marriage, whichever is earlier. ठीक है. तब तक अकाउंट में पैसा जाएगा. The interest earned is taxable under the Income Tax Act. No, the interest earned is exempted under Section 10 of the Income Tax Act. So it is incorrect. एंड द मिनिमम डिपॉजिट इज ₹250, द मैक्सिमम डिपॉजिट इज 150,000 यानी कि 1.5 लाख रुपए, ठीक है। द डिपॉजिट्स आर आल्सो एग्जेम्प्टेड अंडर सेक्शन 80C ऑफ इनकम टैक्स एक्ट, ठीक है। वी कैन टेक दी वन कैन टेक दी एग्जेम्पशंस। तो इनकरेक्ट बताना है, 3 ओनली विल बी द करेक्ट आंसर। Consider the following statements with respect to senior citizen savings scheme. Minimum deposit limit is 10,000 per annum. It is not 10,000, it is 1,000, while the maximum deposit is 30 lakhs. So this is incorrect. Maturity is 5 years, extendable by 3 more years. Yes. And deposits are qualified for tax deduction under section 80C of Income Tax Act up to 1.5 lakh annually. बिल्कुल सही बात है, ठीक है। करेक्ट बताना है, 2 and 3 will be the right answer. And since it is for senior citizens, so it can be availed by all the citizens who are 60 plus, along with those who took voluntary retirement in the age group of 55 to 60, and for all those who were defense personnel but retired and are of the age 50 plus. Consider the following statements with respect to National Savings Monthly Account Scheme, and you need to identify the incorrect statement. The maximum deposit allowed is 9 lakh for single account holder, yes, and 18 lakh for joint account holder. सिंगल अकाउंट के लिए 9 लाख है और जो जॉइंट अकाउंट है उसके लिए 15 लाख. Premature closure is allowed but only after 1 year, yes, and there are of course certain percentage of penalty. An individual can operate multiple accounts subject to the maximum deposit limit, yes, ठीक है. And joint account can also be opened up to can be opened by maximum up to 3 persons. 3 लोग जो है वो joint account खोल सकते हैं. तो incorrect बताना है, only one will be the right answer. Consider the following statement with respect to Mahila Samman Saving Certificate, and you need to identify the correct statements. Correct statement हमें बताना है जी. So the account matures in 5 years from the date of opening. No, the account matures in 2 years, and the last date to open the account was 31st March 2025. Okay, the interest rate of 7% per annum is offered. No, 7.5%. So both of these are incorrect, and the account holders can withdraw up to 40% of the balance after 1 year from the date of account opening. Yes. Okay, so the correct answer will be only 3 correct statement बताने थे हमें. Now some questions on the 5-year plans. Okay, so this way all the topics, my dear friends, shall be covered. You guys don't have to worry about all these things. Question number 14. Consider the following statements with respect to Bombay plan, and you need to identify the correct statements. This plan was formulated in 1945 by the then 8 leading industrialists. बाकी सब ठीक है, but the year of formulation was 1944, not 45. It aimed to double the per capita income and the national income of that period. Yes. The total cost of the plan was 10,000 crores, which were to be invested over the 15 years. ठीक है. So question number 14, 2 and 3 are correct. Option A. The Indian Federation of Labour came up with an alternative plan to the Bombay plan. The plan aimed to provide basic needs to all the people in the country within a period of 10 years. It was a 15,000 crore plan. Who drafted the plan? First of all, this plan is people's plan. We are talking about people's plan. Okay, we are talking about people's plan, and it was formulated by Mr. M.N. Roy. ठीक है, M.N. Roy ने इसको formulate किया था. Which among the following plans has a fundamental feature of developing a decentralized self-sufficient agricultural society with emphasis on the development of cottage industry? So whenever you see this word decentralization, agriculture society, cottage, that is somewhat related to the Gandhian principles. That must be related to the Gandhian principles. Okay, so yeah, this plan that was again formulated in the 1944. It is called as Gandhian plan by S.N. Agarwal. Okay, it was formulated by S.N. Agarwal. Okay, and it is a 3,500 crores plan. It was a 3,500 crore plan. Who was the chairperson of National Planning Committee established in 1938 to provide ways and means advances for the establishment of new industries and also for the development of the existing ones? 1938 में National Planning Committee बनाई गई. It was constituted by Subhash Chandra Bose by the efforts of Subhash Chandra Bose, not only by him, by the efforts of Subhash Chandra Bose, and it was chaired by Jawaharlal Nehru. The right answer is option A. Clear है? अरे हाँ कि ना? Consider the following statements with respect to the first 5-year plan, and you need to identify the incorrect statement. It was based on T.C. Mahalanobis model. No. The duration was 1951 to 56. It was based on Harrod-Damore model. Harrod-Damore model. T.C. Mahalanobis नहीं था. The targeted growth was 2.1%. ठीक है, the targeted growth was not 3.6, it was 2.1%. The actual growth achieved was 3.6 and the duration 51 to 56. So the right answer is incorrect बताना है, only 1 and 2. During which of the following 5-year plans India borrowed from IMF for the first time due to unforeseen circumstances like Indo-China War, Indo-Pak War, and continuous droughts? So 1960 to 70 was a bad period for the government for the country, and 62 में we had Indo-China War, 65 में we had the war with Pakistan, and there were continuous droughts. ठीक है, और 66 से 69 तो हमें प्लान हॉलीडे रखना पड़ा था, यानी कि हम एनुअल प्लान पे जी रहे थे. ठीक है, so this was during the third 5-year plan when India borrowed from IMF for the first time, and the duration was 1961 to 66. The last question for today: consider the following statements with respect to fifth 5-year plan, and you need to identify the incorrect statements. Okay, this was the first plan when the government gave the slogan of Garibi Hatao. This is correct. The emphasis was on PM 20 point program. The plan was terminated when Janata Party came to power in 1970. All of them are correct. So I think this should be, we need to identify the correct statements. Okay, this was the first plan in the country that was terminated. Okay, all 1, 2 and 3 will be the right answer. तो सही कर लेंगे अपनी पीडीएफ में, करेक्ट स्टेटमेंट्स हमें बताने. ठीक है, all 1, 2 and 3 will be the right answer, my dear friends, to this question. Question number 1 says consider the following statements. Consider the following statements with respect to 12th 5-year plan, and you need to identify the correct statements. Okay. So this 12th 5-year plan, my dear friends, was the last plan in the series of, it was the last plan. One second, I hope, yeah, it was the last plan in the series of 5-year plans. Okay, in the series of 5-year plans, it was the last plan. After that, the government is relying, or the entire country is relying on Niti Aayog for the planning. All types of planning in the country now is being done by Niti Aayog. Before this, there was planning commission for all these economic planning. 12th plan was the last plan for a duration of 2012 to 17. Okay, the plan was based on the theme towards faster and more inclusive growth. No, in fact, this theme towards faster and more inclusive growth was for the 11th 5-year plan. The 12th 5-year plan has had the theme of faster, somewhat similar, but there is one difference: faster, more inclusive, and sustainable growth. Okay, that was the theme of 12th 5-year plan. So the 12th 5-year plan was also focused on sustainable growth as well. It talked about sustainability as well. So this is incorrect. It was aimed at strengthening infrastructure projects and providing electricity supply in all villages. Yes, through the Pradhan Mantri Saubhagya Yojana. The duration of the plan was 2011 to 16. No, as I just told you, it was 2011 12 to 17. And NDC approved a growth rate of 8% for this plan. Yes. So we need to identify the correct statements, which means the right answer will be option B, only 2 and 4. Which of the following plans had the theme of growth with social justice and equality? This was the only plan which talked about the growth with social justice and equality. Actually, this growth with social justice and equality, actually the social justice and equality was actually somewhat ingrained in all the other plans as well. But in this particular plan, it was highlighted. Okay, it was highlighted. It was the 9th 5-year plan, my dear friends. Which of the following durations in the history of economic planning in India is considered as a period of planned holiday? So I discussed it in the last class as well. So our economy was going through a lot of a lot of hurdles, a lot of ups and downs, right? In the period of 1960 to 70. 60 to 70 का जो दौर था इंडियन इकोनॉमी के लिए, that was not very good. Because of 62 Indo-China War, 65 India-Pakistan War, and a lot of droughts. Continuously बहुत सारे droughts हो गए थे हमारे देश में अलग अलग जगहों पे. And this led to downturn. This led to जो हमारी इंडियन इकोनॉमी थी वो बहुत ज़्यादा नीचे गिर गई थी. This led to a downfall in the Indian economy. ठीक है, इट शुक द इंडियन इकोनॉमी एक्चुअली. ठीक है, सो इसीलिए भारत सरकार ने डिसाइड किया कि 66 से 69 तक हमें शॉर्ट टर्म प्लानिंग की जरूरत है. वी कांट गो फॉर द लॉन्ग टर्म प्लानिंग ऑफ 5 years. So the government decided to go for annual planning in these 3 years, and these annual plans were for the period of 66 to 69. And this plan period is also called as plan holiday, because Why it is called as plan holiday? Because there were no 5-year plans in this period. So option B is the correct answer. What type of inflation occurs when overall prices increase due to increase in the cost of wages and raw materials? So देखो, when there is an increase in the cost of wages, when there is an increase in the cost of wages and raw material, what does it mean? It means that it is definitely going to increase the prices of finished product. ठीक है, जो finished product होगा उसका जो प्राइसेस है वो बढ़ेगा, यानी कि जो प्रोडक्शन कॉस्ट है, बेसिकली प्रोडक्शन कॉस्ट जो है वो इंक्रीज हो गई। अब अगर प्रोडक्शन कॉस्ट इंक्रीज होगी तो क्या होगा भाई, प्राइसेस इंक्रीज होंगे कि नहीं होंगे? ठीक है, क्या ऐसे समझो, अगर प्रोडक्शन कॉस्ट इंक्रीज होगी लेकिन जो हमारा जो मैन्युफैक्चरर है उसके पास रिसोर्सेज कांस्टेंट है, प्रोडक्शन कॉस्ट बढ़ गई, तो व्हाट इज गोइंग टू हैपन? सप्लाई विल गो डाउन। ऐसे समझ लो, सप्लाई विल गो डाउन, बट द डिमांड वाज कांस्टेंट। डिमांड तो कांस्टेंट थी, डिमांड में तो कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ा। So now when supply is when supply is going down, the demand is constant. Of course, the prices will go up. The prices will go up. Okay, the general price level will go up, and this will called as cost push inflation because this inflation has occurred because of the increase in cost of wages and raw materials. ठीक है, इसको दूसरे तरीके से और हम समझने की कोशिश करें. So if the production cost is going up, obviously the manufacturer will increase the prices. ऐसा समझ लो, तो मैन्युफैक्चरर विल इंक्रीज द प्राइसेस बिकॉज चलो उसके पास मान लेते रिसोर्सेज है, ठीक है, रिसोर्सेज है तो उसने प्रोडक्शन कॉस्ट बढ़ाई, तो जब उसकी प्रोडक्शन कॉस्ट बढ़ेगी प्राइसेस तो वो बढ़ाएगा ही ना। ठीक है, प्राइसेस बढ़ गए, डिमांड कांस्टेंट है, ठीक है, तो प्राइस अगेन, फिर प्राइस जो है वो बढ़ गए, इसमें सप्लाई डिमांड हटा दिया हमने, प्राइसेस बढ़ गए तो इन्फ्लेशन आ गया। सो व्हाट इज इट? कॉस्ट पुश इन्फ्लेशन। क्लियर है? चलिए आगे चलते हैं। Again, yeah. Which of the following types of inflation is correctly described as too many dollars chasing too few goods? ठीक है जी, too many dollars chasing too few goods, तो ये तो क्लियर है, नाम से ही क्लियर है, राइट? टू मेनी डॉलर्स, बहुत सारा पैसा, यानी कि मनी सप्लाई इज इनफ इन द इकोनॉमी। ठीक है, लेकिन गुड्स की जो है वो कमी है, गुड्स की क्या है, कमी है। ठीक है, तो अब जब मनी सप्लाई बहुत ज़्यादा होगी, मनी सप्लाई जब बहुत ज़्यादा होगी तो डिमांड बढ़ जाएगी। ठीक है, द डिमांड विल गो अप, एंड व्हेन द डिमांड इज गोइंग अप, ठीक है, at the constant supply, what's going to happen? It is definitely going to lead to a situation of inflation. क्या हो जाएगा जी, इससे इन्फ्लेशन आ जाएगी कि नहीं आ जाएगी? अरे हाँ कि ना, इन्फ्लेशन आ जाएगी। और ये किस तरीके की इन्फ्लेशन है? डिमांड इंक्रीज हुई, मनी सप्लाई थी इकोनॉमी में, ने क्या करा, डिमांड को बढ़ा दिया, तो इट इज अ डिमांड पुल इन इन्फ्लेशन। ठीक है, इट इज अ डिमांड पुल इन्फ्लेशन। ऑलराइट, question number 6. In the year 1991, Indian economy faced an acute shortage of foreign exchange. Which of the following was not one of the factors for the shortage? We faced an acute shortage of foreign exchange itna that we had only 3 weeks of foreign exchange to pay our import bills. ये हमने पिछले की क्लासेस में भी पढ़ा था। ठीक है, बट देयर वर सर्टेन फैक्टर्स दैट लेड टू दिस पर्टिकुलर शॉर्टेज। ठीक है, क्या क्या थे? गल्फ वॉर बिटवीन द गल्फ कंट्रीज ऑफ इराक एंड कुवैत विच पुश्ड द प्राइसेस, ऑयल प्राइसेस अप, एंड how the increase in oil prices led to the shortage in the foreign exchange. Of course, when we purchase the oil, we have to pay the bill in foreign exchange only, in dollars. ठीक है, so that led to, अब जब prices बढ़ेंगे तो ज़्यादा डॉलर निकलेगा। So this is correct. Private remittances from Indians working abroad fell down. Yes, क्योंकि ये वॉर वगैरह चल रही थी और सबसे ज़्यादा रेमिटेंस कहाँ से आता था? गल्फ कंट्री से ही आता था। तो जब किसी कंट्री में वॉर चलेगी तो वहाँ के जो लोग, जो वहाँ पे लोग काम कर रहे होंगे, ऑफकोर्स उनके ऊपर इम्पैक्ट आएगा, एंड अगर वहाँ पे कोई इंडियन काम कर रहा है तो उसकी जॉब पे भी इम्पैक्ट आएगा, तो वो रेमिटेंस कैसे भेजेगा? एंड रेमिटेंस इज वन ऑफ द मेजर सोर्स ऑफ इंडियाज फॉरेन एक्सचेंज टुडे ऑल्सो। There were huge external debts on the country and fresh debts were denied by the international institutions. Yes, we discussed it in one of the class कि इंडिया के पास ऊपर बहुत ज़्यादा डेट था और जो इंटरनेशनल बैंक्स थे या इंस्टीट्यूशंस थे उन्होंने मना कर दिया कि नहीं, अब हम और आपको लोन नहीं दे सकते भाई, because now there is your sovereignty at is at the risk. India's sovereignty was at the risk at that particular time. India was seen as a country which was not able to pay its debt. ठीक है, तो इसलिए बाकी कंट्रीज ने भी जो इंटरनेशनल इंस्टीट्यूशंस थे उन्होंने मना कर दिया। बाद में ऑल्दो IMF और वर्ल्ड बैंक ने ऑन सर्टेन कंडीशंस लोन दे दिया था। फॉरेन एग्रीकल्चर प्रोडक्शन लीडिंग टू फूड इंपोर्ट्स, ऑफ कोर्स ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं था। दिस वाज नॉट वन ऑफ द फैक्टर फॉर द शॉर्टेज ऑफ फॉरेन एक्सचेंज इन द ईयर 1991। सो द राइट आंसर इज ऑप्शन डी। Which of the following is not one of the key features of liberalization policy adopted by Government of India in 1991 economic reforms? So, through the 1991 economic reforms, we came up with three reforms: liberalization, privatization, and globalization. The liberalization policy, my dear friends, liberalized the Indian economy by abolishing the industrial licensing, by technology upgradation, by revamping the fiscal and monetary policy, by revamping the export-import policy, okay, by taking care of the फॉरेन ट्रेड एज वेल। तो ये कुछ लिबरलाइजेशन की पॉलिसीज थी। जो ऑटोनॉमी टू PSU है, ये किसका पार्ट था? ये था प्राइवेटाइजेशन का पार्ट। प्राइवेटाइजेशन में द गवर्नमेंट मेजरली फोकस्ड ऑन टू थिंग्स, वन इज द ऑटोनॉमी टू PSU एंड अनदर इज द डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट। ठीक है, दूसरा क्या था? डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट इन द PSUs which were not performing well. So the right answer is option C. You guys can keep answering as well if you want, if you know the answer. What is the minimum investment threshold for an enterprise to be classified as a small enterprise? So recently, as on from 1st of April 2025, the definition of MSME has been revised. So micro, small, and medium. This is the definition. All of these enterprises are defined in two terms: investment threshold and turnover threshold. For तो याद कर रखा है मैंने, देखो ऐसे है 2.5 into 10 फिर into 5, ठीक है, और यहाँ पे 10 इंटू अगेन 10 फिर इंटू 500, ठीक है। इस तरीके से आप भी याद कर लेना। तो द क्वेश्चन इज रिगार्डिंग द स्मॉल एंटरप्राइज और इन्वेस्टमेंट थ्रेशोल्ड। इन्वेस्टमेंट स्मॉल 25 करोड़, 2.5 25 करोड़ विल बी द करेक्ट आंसर, ठीक है जी। इस तरीके से याद रखेंगे, और इससे तो मे वाले अटेम्प्ट में क्वेश्चन आया था और यहाँ पे भी आ सकता है। Consider the following statements with respect to credit guarantee scheme for MSEs, and you need to identify the incorrect statements. The maximum credit guarantee cover is not 5 crores. It has been increased to 10 crores. Earlier it was 5 crores. The annual guarantee fee ranges from 0.37 to 1.20. The scheme is being implemented through Credit Guarantee Fund Trust for MEs, for micro and small enterprises, jointly set up by Ministry of MSME and SIDBI. Yes, the scheme is being implemented by the Ministry of MSME since the year 2000. ठीक है, सो इनकरेक्ट बताना है, ओनली वन विल बी द राइट आंसर। विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग आर एक्टिविटीज आर नॉट इंक्लूडेड अंडर द डेफिनेशन ऑफ NBFCs? NBFCs क्या करते हैं? NBFCs हैव द functions of providing the loans and advances. They have the function of buying and selling of shares, stocks, debentures, debt securities, है ना। इसके अलावा लीजिंग, हायर परचेज, ये सारे कुछ फंक्शन होते हैं। लीजिंग, हायर परचेज, ऑल ऑफ दीज आर द फंक्शंस ऑफ NBFCs, ठीक है। इनमें से कौन से फंक्शन नहीं है हमें ये बताना है। एग्रीकल्चर ऑफ कोर्स नहीं है, बाइंग और सेलिंग गुड्स इनका कोई काम नहीं है, इंक्लूडिंग सिक्योरिटीज मेंशन है, कोई सर्विस ये प्रोवाइड नहीं करते हैं। और जनरल लिखा हुआ, ऑल्दो दे प्रोवाइड व्हेन इट इज अ सर्विस व्हेन दे प्रोवाइड अ लोन, ठीक है। बट जनरल, अगर जनरल लिखा हो कि प्रोवाइडिंग सर्विसेज, व्हाट डज इट मीन बाय प्रोवाइडिंग सर्विसेज, है ना। डीलिंग इन सेल, परचेज और कंस्ट्रक्शन ऑफ इमूवेबल प्रॉपर्टी, ऑल, इनमें से कोई भी NBFC का फंक्शन नहीं है दोस्तों। द राइट आंसर इज ऑप्शन डी। Which of the following statements is incorrect with respect to the net owned fund compliance for NBFC? NOF of at least 10 crore has to be maintained effective from 1st October 2022, correct. New NBFCs must meet the 10 crore NOF requirement from the outset, yes. Existing NBFCs must comply with 10 crore NOF threshold by 31st March 2027. Okay, it has to be achieved by 31st March 2027. This is the incorrect statement, which is the right answer to this question. And this option D is absolutely correct. Which of the following types of NBFCs must have minimum 75% of total assets deployed in infrastructure lending? It is infrastructure finance company. Very straightforward question. The right answer is option A. According to the revised guidelines of PSL, the RBI has increased the loan limit under PSL for education from 20 lakh to how much lakh per individual? ठीक है, वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन। रिवीजन ऑफ, देखो PSL से क्वेश्चन आता ही आता है, मुझे लगता है रिवीजन ऑफ PSL से क्वेश्चन इस बार आएगा, ठीक है। The loan limit under PSL for education has been increased, my dear friends, from 20 lakh to 25 lakhs. Which of the following is which of the following arms of the World Bank is also known as soft lending arm of the World Bank? IDA. ठीक है, IDA International Development Association is also known as the soft lending arm of the World Bank because it provides interest free loans. Because it provides interest free loans to the poorest countries in the world for their development. ठीक है. And last question for the day: of all the following arms of World Bank, India is not a member. Of which of the following arms of World Bank India is not a member? India is not a member of ICSID. Rest of the four जो है हमारे आर्म्स, IBRD, IFC, IDA एंड मीगा, इन सबका इंडिया मेंबर है. चार और एक ये पांचवा ICICID, इंडिया इसका मेंबर नहीं है. ठीक है. सो द राइट आंसर इज ऑप्शन सी. करते हैं विद क्वेश्चन नंबर 1. कंसीडर द फॉलोइंग स्टेटमेंट्स विद रिस्पेक्ट टू IMF एंड यू नीड टू आइडेंटिफाई द correct statements. It was established on 27 December 1944 with 30 member nations, with India as a founding member. It was established on 27 December 1944 as a result of Bretton Woods Conference. Bretton Woods Conference, and IMF along with World Bank was established, and that is why IMF and World Bank are together called as what? Bretton Woods twins. Okay, so this is incorrect. It is headquartered in Washington DC. Correct. It was created with an initial fund of $8.8 billion, not $10.8 billion. So this is incorrect. And Andorra is the 190th member of IMF, which joined it in 2020. Correct. And current chief of World Bank, IMF is Kristalina Georgieva. So we need to identify the correct statements, which means the right answer will be option B, only 2 and 4. The IMF provides technical assistance to help member countries strengthen their capacity to design and implement effective policies in 4 areas. Which of the following is not one of the 4 areas? The 4 areas, my dear friends, are monetary financial policies, fiscal policy and management, economic and financial legislation, and statistics. These are the 4 areas in which the IMF provides countries to strengthen their capacity to design and implement effective policies. Okay. Socio-economic policies and frameworks is not one of them. The right answer is option D. Which of the following statements is correct with respect to IMF quotas? The quotas determine the maximum contribution of a country to IMF's financial resources. This is absolutely correct. These are denominated in SDRs, special drawing rights. These are reviewed at least after every 5 years. ठीक है, इनका जो रिव्यू होता है कोटास का वो हर 5 साल में होता है. सो दिस स्टेटमेंट इज incorrect, which means the correct answer is option C. ठीक है, तो and the next, GDP of member country has been given the highest weightage for calculating quota. This is also correct. So this one was incorrect. The right answer is option C. ये यहाँ पे क्वेश्चन में थोड़ा सा गड़बड़ है, इसको इनकरेक्ट कर देते हैं. ठीक है, क्योंकि ये भी करेक्ट था, ये भी करेक्ट था, ये भी करेक्ट था, सिर्फ ये इनकरेक्ट था. ठीक है, तो ऑप्शन डी इज द राइट, सी इज द करेक्ट आंसर. IMF lends to its member countries in its artificial currency unit known as SDR. It is an international reserve asset created by IMF in 1969 to supplement its member countries' official reserves. The value of SDR is based on 5 major currencies. Which of the following is not one of the 5 currencies? The 5 currencies, my dear friends, are US dollar, euro, Japanese yen, Chinese yuan, and pound sterling. These are the 5 currencies. So the right answer is Russian ruble. Consider the following statements with respect to the World Bank, and you need to identify the incorrect statement. The World Bank consists of 5 arms. Yes. To be a member of World Bank, a country needs to be a member of IMF. बिल्कुल सही. IBRD is known as soft lending arm. No, it is IDA, which is called as the soft lending arm because IDA provides interest-free loans to the poorest countries. ठीक है, poorest countries को interest-free loan provide कराने का काम करता है ये. ठीक है, for the development process. And India is not a member of ICSID. बिल्कुल सही. India is a member of IBRD, IFC, IDA, and MEGA. These 4 arms, India is a member. However, India is not a member of ICSID. Okay, so this one is correct. Right statement 1, 2, and 4. अच्छा, incorrect बताना. Only 3 will be the right answer. Option B. Consider the following statements with respect to IDA, International Development Association, and you need to identify the correct statements. It was established in 1945 with India as its founding member. Not 1945. It was established in 1960. It was established in 1960 with India as its founding member. It provides long-term interest-free loans to the poorest countries for the development. Correct. The repayment periods are stretched over 25 to 40 years. The repayment periods are stretched over 25 to 40 years, and IDA also provides grants to countries at risk of debt distress. Correct. So, correct statement बताना है 2, 3 and 4 will be the right answer. Which of the following statements is incorrect with respect to the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trades? It was signed in 1947 to establish free and fair international trade system among member countries. Yes. It was then signed by 23 countries. Correct. Headquarters was at Geneva in Switzerland. Yes. And total 8 rounds of negotiations were held under GATT, and one round led to the establishment of WTO. No. It was the Uruguay round which led to the establishment of WTO on 1st of January 1995. That was the 8th round. Okay, 8th round of GATT. Okay, Havana round in fact was the first round. Okay, Havana round was the first. Uruguay round was the 8th one which led to the formation of WTO. The right answer is option D, because this one is the incorrect statement. Okay. Consider the following statements with respect to WTO and you need to identify the correct statement. It was established on 1st December 1995, not 1st December but 1st January 1995. It is headed by a DG whose term is not 5 years but 4 years. Okay. The higher decision making body is Ministerial Conference. Yes, and unlike IMF and World Bank, WTO has a one country one vote system. Okay, correct बताना है. So the right answer will be option B, only 3 and 4. Alright, only 3 and 4 will be the correct answer. Which of the following is not one of the principles of WTO? World Trade Organization works on 3 principles. One is the national treatment, one is the most favored nation, and third is the special and differential treatment. ठीक है. नेशनल ट्रीटमेंट में हमारे जो डोमेस्टिक प्लेयर्स हैं हम उसको फेवर करते हैं. मोस्ट फेवर्ड नेशन में हम ये बोलते हैं कि हर कंट्री के साथ हमारा जो ट्रेड है उसमें हम किसी के साथ बिजनेस नहीं करेंगे. स्पेशल एंड डिफरेंशियल ट्रीटमेंट उन कंट्रीज को दिया जाता है जिनके साथ हम थोड़ा सा स्पेशल ट्रीटमेंट करते हैं. So trade framework among the nations is not one of the principles. The right answer is option D. BIMSTEC is an international organization of 7 South Asian and Southeast Asian nations. There are 14 main sectors of BIMSTEC along technological and economic cooperation among the countries. Which of the following is not one of the 7 members? BIMSTEC is headquartered in Dhaka. It stands for Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multisectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation. Let me repeat it. Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multisectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation. It has 7 member states: India, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Myanmar, India, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Nepal, Myanmar, Sri Lanka and Thailand. These are the 7 members. Maldives is not one of them. The right answer is option C. Which of the following subsidies of WTO are classified as trade distorting? There are 3 types of subsidy of WTO: green, blue and amber box. Amber box is classified as the trade distorting. The right answer is option C. With respect to the organizational structure of WTO, identify the correct statement. It is the highest decision making body and it meets once in every 4 years. No. Yes, it is the highest decision making body, but it meets once in every 2 years, not 4 years. Ministerial conference is attended by governors of central banks of all member nations. Not the governors, but the Minister of Commerce, the Ministers of Commerce and Trade. कॉमर्स ट्रेड एंड इंडस्ट्री जो भी टर्मिनोलॉजी है किसी एक पर्टिकुलर कंट्री की, जैसे हमारे देश में मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ कॉमर्स एंड इंडस्ट्री है तो मिनिस्टर अटेंड करते हैं. ठीक है. जनरल काउंसिल फंक्शंस एज डिस्प्यूट सेटलमेंट बॉडी एंड ट्रेड पॉलिसी रिव्यू बॉडी एंड इट मीट्स वंस एवरी 2 years. नो, इट मीन्स एवरी ईयर. ठीक है, साल में एक बार, मतलब हर साल मिलते हैं ये. ठीक है. एंड काउंसिल फॉर ट्रेड इंक्लूड्स 3 काउंसिल फॉर गुड सर्विसेज एंड ट्रेड रिलेटेड एस्पेक्ट्स ऑफ इंटेलेक्चुअल प्रॉपर्टी राइट, दैट इज ट्रिप्स. So this one is absolutely correct. The right answer is option D. Which of the following arms of the World Bank is incorrectly matched with its function? IBRD is for economic development of developing and poor countries. IFC provides long-term interest-free loans to the poorest countries for their development. No. IFC, my dear friends, provides the finance to the private sector of a country. To the private sector of a country. And जो function यहाँ पे लिखा है providing long-term interest-free loans to the poorest countries for their development. That is the function of IDA, International Development Association, and not IFC. Okay, so this is incorrectly matched. The right answer must be option B. MEGA promotes FDI by providing insurance to private sector foreign investors, and ICSID settles investment-related disputes between the member countries. Okay, option B is the correct answer. Consider the following statements with respect to SAARC, and you need to identify the incorrect statements. It is the regional intergovernmental organization and geopolitical union of South Asian states, and India is a member. India is a member. Okay. There are 8 member states in SAARC. Yes, it was founded in 1985, not 95. And it is not headquartered in Dhaka. Dhaka में BIMSTEC का headquarter है. SAARC का headquarter है जी काठमांडू में, which is the capital of Kathmandu, which is the capital of Nepal. Right. The right answer will be option D, 3 and 4, because we need to identify the incorrect statements. Which of the following statements is incorrect with respect to Association of Southeast Asian Nations? Association of Southeast Asian Nations के respect में हमें incorrect statement बताना है. So it is a regional grouping of 10 states in Southeast Asia that aims to promote economic and security cooperation among its 10 members. Correct. The headquarters are not in Kuala Lumpur but are in Jakarta in Indonesia. The headquarters are in Jakarta in Indonesia. This is incorrect. Timor-Leste and Papua New Guinea are the 2 observers. So there are 10 members and 2 observers. It was from the Bangkok Declaration in 1967. This is also correct. So हमें incorrect statement बताना था. The right answer is option B. Which of the following conventions or protocols is incorrectly matched with its year of establishment? Ramsar Convention 1971 correct. Stockholm Convention 2001 correct. Montreal Protocol 1987. 1987 not 1985. ठीक है. In Kyoto Protocol 1997 ये भी correct. So हमारा जो सही आंसर होगा that will be option C, because हमें incorrect वाला मैच करना था. Ramsar Convention, my dear friends, is for wetlands, conservation of wetlands. And Stockholm Convention is for preventing the persistent organic pollutants from the environment. Montreal Protocol is for protecting the ozone layer. Okay, is for protecting the ozone layer, and Kyoto Protocol is for elimination of greenhouse gases from the environment. ठीक है, ये convention protocol याद कर लेंगे, अच्छा है, important है. With which of the following objectives Minamata Convention was adopted in 2013? Minamata is a place in Japan. This is option. This was adopted to protect health and environment from the adverse effects of mercury. Mercury जो होता है वो carcinogenic होता है. It can lead to cancer. So this Minamata Convention was adopted to protect health and environment from the adverse effects of mercury. The right answer is option A. Which of the following SDGs is incorrectly matched with its objective? SDG 1 zero hunger. No, पहला वाले गलत है. SDG 1 talks about the zero poverty. SDG 2 is for zero hunger. 3 is for good health and well-being. 4 is for quality education, and 5 is for gender equality. These SDG 1 to 5 you need to remember. These are important. वैसे total we have 17 goals and there are 169 targets. 17 goals and 169 targets are there in SDG, which have to be achieved by 2030. According to the Sustainable Development Report 2025, none of the 17 SDGs will be achieved by 2030. Sustainable Development Report 2025 वाली जो आई है, that is important for you, पढ़ के जाएंगे. The report has identified 5 SDGs which are particularly off track. Which of the following is one of the 5 SDGs? ठीक है, 5 SDGs ऐसी बताइए जो कि ऑफ ट्रैक है, जिसमें से एक जो सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट है वो है जी जीरो हंगर. जीरो हंगर में जो है हम बहुत ज़्यादा अच्छे से परफॉर्म नहीं कर पा रहे हैं. राइट आंसर इज ऑप्शन बी. एंड द लास्ट क्वेश्चन माय डियर फ्रेंड्स फॉर टुडे. Consider the following statements with respect to Sustainable Development Report 2025 and you need to identify the correct statement. Sweden has been ranked at number 1. It's not Sweden, it's Finland. The fastest progress among OECD nations has been registered by Costa Rica. Yes, and the fastest progress among G20 nations has been registered by Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia, right? For the first time, India has been ranked at below 100. Yes, India has been ranked at 99th position, and this is for the first time. India's score was not 57 but 67. So, correct statement बताना है. 2 and 3 will be the right answer. Option B. Option B, 2 and 3, my dear friends, will be the correct answer. चलिए start करते हैं with the very first question for the day, my dear friends. Question number 1. Consider the following statements with respect to the foreign trade policy 2015 to 20 and you need to identify the correct statements. Although we already have now the foreign trade policy 2023, but they have mentioned in the syllabus the foreign trade policy of 2015 to 20 and that is why we need to cover this policy only. ठीक है, तो पढ़ते हैं इसके बारे में. It was launched on 1st of April 2015. Absolutely correct. It aimed to increase India's global export share from 2% to 3.5% by 2019-20. Absolutely correct. SEIS was introduced for incentivizing notified services. SEIS means service exports from India scheme. Okay, and then we also have MEIS, merchandise export from India scheme. Okay, and the policy aimed to reduce exports of goods and services to strengthen the domestic supply. Of course not. The policy in fact aimed to increase the exports of goods and services, at the same time strengthening the domestic supply. Of course, when the exports of goods and services are increased, it will definitely increase the domestic supply. It will definitely increase the domestic production to meet the needs of the exports. So correct statement बताना है. Only A will be the correct answer. Only one option A will be the correct answer. Only 1, 2 and 3. All right. With reference to India's trade reforms post 1991, consider the following. Before 1991, India followed a liberal trade regime with minimal tariffs. बिल्कुल बिल्कुल गलत जवाब है ये. ठीक है, क्योंकि इंडिया जो था वो लिबरल ट्रेड रिजीम उसके बाद 1991 के बाद लेके आया था थ्रू द पॉलिसी ऑफ लिबरलाइजेशन. The 1991 reforms aimed to address a balance of payment crisis. बिल्कुल सही. And the balance of payment crisis was such that we only had the foreign exchange reserve to meet our 3 weeks of import bill. ठीक है. Post reforms, the focus shifted towards globalization and competitiveness. Correct. India adopted import substitution as a key post 1991 strategy. No. In fact, pre 1991 India had the strategy of import substitution. इसके बाद इंडिया ने पूरी तरीके से अपनी इकोनॉमी को ओपन अप कर दिया था और जो इंपोर्ट सब्सटीट्यूशन की पॉलिसी थी उसको अबैंडन कर दिया गया. तो दिस इज इनकरेक्ट. इनकरेक्ट बताना है हमें. द राइट आंसर इज 1 and 4, ऑप्शन बी. Question number 3. Consider the following statements with respect to MEIS and SEIS schemes and you need to identify the correct statements. MEIS rewards exports of notified products to specific markets. बिल्कुल सही. SEIS incentivizes exports of notified service. Yes. See, now MEIS and SEIS have been discontinued. ठीक है. And now we have a new scheme that is called RODTEP. ठीक है. But do remember we need to cover these schemes because we have in the syllabus FTP 2015 to 20 in which in the FTP 2015-20 these two schemes were launched and that is why we need to cover all both these schemes. Both were later merged into RODTEP scheme in 2019. No, these were simply discontinued and a new scheme RODTEP was formulated and launched by the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. Both scheme issues transferable duty credit scripts. बिल्कुल सही. जो इसके अंदर ड्यूटी स्क्रिप्ट थी वो ट्रांसफरेबल है, वो ट्रांसफरेबल थी. ठीक है. करेक्ट स्टेटमेंट बताना है. 1, 2 and 4 will be the right answer. Option D. Under the export promotion capital goods scheme in FTP 2015-20, you need to identify the correct statements. Domestic capital good purchase reduced the specific export obligation. बिल्कुल सही. And the reduction was not by 50%, it was by 75%. This is incorrect. It aimed to promote Make in India. Of course, it aimed to promote Make in India by providing certain benefits on the domestic capital goods. And it was applicable only to the foreign capital goods. No. It was not applicable only to the foreign capital goods, but of course the domestic capital goods. Majorly it was focused on the domestic capital goods. Okay. Incorrect बताना है. 2 and 4 will be the right answer. Option B. Which of the following statements about FDI and FII, foreign direct investment and foreign institutional investments, are correct? FDI provides long-term capital control. Yes. FII is short-term and volatile. Yes, it is. Both FDI and FII involve direct control over management. No. In FDI, the investor has the direct control over the management, while in FII, the investor does not have the direct control over the management because the investment is less than 10% only. If it is more than 10%, then it is classified as FDI. FDI aids economic growth through technology transfer. Yes, because once FDI is permitted, it is it also comes with the technology. Okay, so this is correct. The right answer is option A. Only 1, 2 and 4. Which of the following sectors are prohibited for FDI in India? FDI के लिए कौन कौन से sectors prohibited है? So lottery business is prohibited, atomic energy is prohibited because of the national security. निधि companies में FDI पर prohibited है. सोलर पावर जनरेशन में एफडीआई प्रोहिबिटेड नहीं है दोस्तों. ऑफ कोर्स द गवर्नमेंट इंटेंड्स टू इंक्रीज इट्स रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी कैपेसिटी एंड फॉर दैट it can't prohibit the FDI in the solar power generation. So the right answer will be option B, only 1, 2 and 3, because these are the three sectors where the FDI is prohibited. With respect to the exporter approved exporter system under FTP, which of the following is true? It allows self certification of origin by manufacturer status holders. बिल्कुल सही. सेल्फ सर्टिफिकेशन का प्रोविजन FTP 2015-20 में इंट्रोड्यूस कर दिया गया था. उससे पहले अप्रूवल लेना पड़ता था DGFT से. It is introduced to accelerate clearances under the trade agreements. Correct. It applies only to the export of defense goods. No, ऐसा नहीं है. और याद रखना एग्जाम में कभी भी कोई एक्सट्रीम स्टेटमेंट आया जिसमें ओनली मेंशन्ड है तो वो ऑलमोस्ट 99% केसेस में इनकरेक्ट ही होता है. It supports faster access under free trade agreements. This is also correct. The right answer will be what? 1, 2 and 4, which is not in the option. चलो let's make this option as 1, 2 and 4. Correct बताना है ना हमें. So let's say option D is 1, 2 and 4. The option D is the correct answer. अच्छा ये रहा, sorry, है. I apologize. Option A is the correct answer. ये 3 ही है. Option A will be the correct answer, my dear friends. Let me just mark it again. ठीक है. The correct answers, we need to identify the true statements which are 1, 2 and 4. Consider the following statements about priority sector lending and you need to identify the incorrect statements. It directs credit flow to sectors critical for inclusive growth. बिल्कुल सही. It was formalized by RBI in 1972, not 1970. The Gadgil Committee first proposed it in 1969, correct, and it was initially aimed only at agriculture. No, again, an extreme statement. सिर्फ एग्रीकल्चर पे फोकस नहीं था और भी सेक्टर्स के ऊपर ये फोकस था. एंड टुडे वी हैव 8 सेक्टर्स इन विच द प्रायोरिटी सेक्टर लेंडिंग इज परमिटेड और हैव टू बी द टारगेट्स ऑफ PSL. देयर आर 8 कैटेगरीज अंडर PSL. ठीक है. इनकरेक्ट बताना है. 2 and 4 विल बी द राइट आंसर, ऑप्शन बी. Which of the following committees is incorrectly matched with its contribution to PSL evolution? Gadgil Committee 40% PSL target by 1985. No, it was highlighted. It was recommended by Krishna Swamy Committee. So this is incorrect. Krishna Swamy Committee area approach and lead bank scheme. It was in fact recommended by the Gadgil Committee. This is also incorrect. Usha Thurad Committee recommended the continuation of lead bank scheme, correct, and Nariman Committee supported the lead bank system, correct. So incorrectly matched बताना है हमें 1 and 2. जो कमिटीज है इंपॉर्टेंट PSL से रिलेटेड वो आपको पता होनी चाहिए. दैट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. बहुत बार क्वेश्चन एग्जाम में पूछा जा चुका है. आगे चलते हैं टू क्वेश्चन नंबर 10. एज पर द रिवाइज्ड PSL गाइडलाइंस विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग आर ट्रू? एजुकेशनल लोन लिमिट रेज्ड फ्रॉम 20 lakh to 25 lakhs, correct. PSL target for UCB is increased to 75%. No, in fact it was 75%. It has been decreased to 60%. ठीक है. Renewable energy household loans capped at 10 lakh per borrower. Yes, and renewable energy project loan limit for the group projects has been increased to 35 crores. Yes, and the definition of in the marginalized sections definition, transgenders have also been included to promote the inclusivity in the society. The correct answer will be 1, 3 and 4, option D. What is the sub target for agriculture sector out of total PSL target for domestic commercial bank? That's very easy. Total target is 40% of the ANBC, out of which sub target of 18% is for the agriculture. So not in the option. Let us say option B is 18%. So the right answer is option B, 18%. Let's change the option B to 18%. Under the revised MSME classification 2025, not 2020, अब दोबारा से हो गया है. Enterprises are classified based on investment and turnover. And what is the classification? Micro, small, medium, investment, turnover. Micro 2.5 crore, 25 crores and 125 crores. And this is 10, 100 and 500. Do remember these targets. इसमें से क्वेश्चन पक्का आएगा. थ्रेशोल्ड, जो इन्वेस्टमेंट और टर्नओवर थ्रेशोल्ड है, ये आपको पता होना चाहिए. दैट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. कंसीडर द फॉलोइंग डेटा विद रिस्पेक्ट टू MSME एंड दिस इज वेरी रिसेंट डेटा. तो यहाँ से क्वेश्चन पूछा जा सकता है. MSME शेयर इन GVA रोज फ्रॉम 27.3% इन फाइनेंशियल 2021 to 30.1% in financial 22-23, and this is the economic survey data, recent economic survey of 24-25. So that's why it is very, very important, and this data was also highlighted in a report that has been recently released by CAIIB, which is the karta dharta of MSME sector in the country. MSME contribution to exports was around 45.79% in financial 24-25. Number of exporting MSME increased to over 1.7 lakh by financial 24-25. So all of them are correct. Option C, 1, 2 and 3, all of them are correct. The 25-26 budget proposed which of the following for MSMEs? Credit cards for micro enterprises, yes. Fund of funds of corpus 20,000 crore, no. देखो फंड ऑफ फंड्स तो इंट्रोड्यूस हुआ है बट उसका कॉर्पस कितना है? 10,000 करोड़ है, 20,000 करोड़ नहीं है. Deep Tech Fund for Next Gen Startups, yes. And credit guarantee increase from 5 crores to 10 crores for micro and small enterprises, बिल्कुल सही. And for well run exporter it has again been increased to 20 crores और startup के लिए जो credit guarantee it has been increased to 20 crores. So here the right answer will be option C, only 1, 3 and 4. ठीक है जी, क्लियर है. In the context of the sectors of the economy, red collar workers are associated with primary sector. Now you have to tell me which sector is associated with the blue collar workers. Write down in the comments, and also the white collars. जल्दी से बताइए comment section में. Primary sector is the right answer. Consider the following statements about the secondary sector, and let's say you need to identify the correct statements. Correct statements बता रहे हैं. It transforms natural materials into finished goods, बिल्कुल सही. It is also known as the industrial sector. Yes. It directly uses natural resources. No, the natural resources are used directly in the primary sector, and the materials which are produced in the in the primary sector, that is used as raw material to produce the finished goods. It creates value addition through processing, बिल्कुल सही. So 1, 2 and 4 will be the correct answer. क्वार्टनरी सेक्टर ऑफ द इकोनॉमी डील्स विद, तो पहले इनिशियली प्राइमरी सेकेंडरी और टर्शरी हुआ करते थे, उसके बाद दो सेक्टर्स को और लाया गया. एक था क्वार्टनरी सेक्टर जो है उसको नॉलेज इकोनॉमी भी बोलते हैं दोस्तों. इट इज ऑल्सो नोन एज नॉलेज इकोनॉमी. एंड नॉलेज इकोनॉमी में हम जो फोकस होता है वो होता है हमारा टेक्नोलॉजिकल इनोवेशन एंड रिसर्च एंड डेवलपमेंट पे. द राइट आंसर इज ऑप्शन बी. The next is quinary sector. As I told you, two other sectors are now there in the sectors of the economy, quaternary and quinary. So quaternary sector tha, that is called as knowledge economy, where we focus on the technological upgradation and research and development. However, the high level decision making is part of the quinary sector. जैसे government हो गए, company के CEOs हो गए, these are all the part of the quinary sector. The right answer is option A, high level decision making and human services. Which of the following is not an example of sunrise sector? तो sunrise sector क्या होता है? Which is an emerging sector. Sunrise sector is the emerging sector जो कि अभी emerge हो रहा है. So emerging sector we have biotechnology, we have renewable energy, we have electric vehicles. Of course, coal mining is not the emerging sector in the country. It is already existing since the independence and even before that. Coal mining cannot be the part of the sunrise sector. Sunrise sectors में वो sectors आते हैं जो कि अभी emerge हो रहे हैं. इसमें AI और ML भी आ जाएंगे. The last question for today's class, my dear friends, which of the following is the characteristics of unorganized sector in India? Worker receive social security benefits? Of course not. And recently the government in the budget 25-26 announced a scheme for providing social security benefits to the 1 crore gig workers. Okay? The government is working toward it, but it is not yet formalized. Jobs have high security and fixed hours? Of course not. Activities operate outside formal regulations? बिल्कुल सही बात है. Activities under the unorganized sectors operate outside the formal regulations. So the right answer is option C. Okay. Thank you very much, my dear friends, for being with me. After this, I will see you in the module C, top 100 MCQs of IE and IFS. Thank you very much for being with me. Goodbye, take care, and God bless.